Hello everybody and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Another game week is over. What was it? Game week 8? I don't even... 7. Game week 7 is over. No, game week 8 is over. Whatever game week it is, another game week is done. And another interesting game week from a football point of view and so on and so on. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, mate. Good. I had triple chocolate muffin. I was top of the league for 33 minutes. Yeah, quite good, mate.
I don't quite get the... Is it muffin top? Is that what the reference to being top of the league and muffin is?
No, the reference was I had something delicious in my house to celebrate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Fine.
That's it.
Nothing
I just
more
thought
than
it'd
that.
be a random just to treat out and say, I've got a triple chocolate muffin, I'm going to eat it. I'm top of the league. I did finish the muffin before Leicester went in front against Wolves.
Yeah. Nice. Good. How did your team
How was your game week?
Oh, well, should we do my team? I'll tell you what, this game week feels like it was a combination of being really lucky and being really unlucky all at the same time. If you ultimately look at it, I scored 66 points, which I'm very happy with, 1.6 million for the week, and it's taken me to 2.38 million overall, which is my highest rank of the season so far after any given game week, other than game week 1. So I'm happy with that, working my way upwards slowly and surely. And if you look at it, obviously I had Harry Kane as captain, and that's an 88th minute flick header winner and maximum bonus points that could easily have been a captaincy blank. Suchek scored in the 91st minute for me and obviously picked up 1 bonus point and a clean sheet point. So 9-pointer that came in injury time. And Soufal obviously got a clean sheet and 2 bonus points, and had Lookman not actually done what he did, that could have been nothing as well. So many of my returns came so late. Yet on the flip side, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne missing a penalty. Had he not missed that penalty, I'd have filled my boots, and everybody in FPL was thinking, oh yeah, we've got to get Kevin De Bruyne back. Werner did get his goal. He also hit the bar and could have scored. Son had an opportunity that you'd think normally he would finish in the first half. So
he's still thinking about how to put it in, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Jesus.
Son, when he's in front of goal, normally so instinctive,
It's so clinical.
Yeah, but it's instinctive more than clinical. And here he just had almost too much time to think about it. So
he's
if
still
you think
thinking about it,
Werner doesn't hit the underside of the bar, De Bruyne doesn't miss a penalty, and suddenly it really filled my boots time. Yet the returns that I did get were late in the game. So it was a combination of, I felt really lucky and yet also really unlucky. And I guess that is what FPL is at the end of the day, isn't it?
Let's not go down the rabbit hole of luck versus skill and all that. But yeah, my game week certainly had luck to it as well, and also unluck. So I was 62 minus 4 for a very small green arrow. I'm just behind you, Suj, as we race for the wooden spoon in the FPL community. We're doing well. So, yes, I had similar luck to yourself with Kane, captain.
Just
Suchek,
behind me. Hang on a second. Your rank starts with a 4, mate.
Sorry, you said you were like 3.8 million?
No. 2.4 million.
Oh, wow. I thought you said 3.8 million.
No. 2.4, mate.
Oh, okay. I'm a bit further behind you then.
Yeah.
But don't worry, I'll get there. I'll get
no
my
doubt.
£50 back come May. Yeah. So, Suchet and Kane, obviously very lucky. Calvert-Lewin's no-touch assist. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how he's got that. He didn't touch it.
Yeah.
Cole Walker-Peters 9-pointer.
That's
touch.
fair.
I'm
Fair
not
deserved.
complain, but
Yeah.
I don't know how he's walked out of that with top bonus.
Yeah, BPS you can argue with,
plenty...
but the clean sheet, I think you can't argue with the clean sheet. But BPS, sure, you can argue with that.
Plenty of unluck as well. I could have had an extra point if Phil Foden walked on the pitch because my replacement substitute was Luke Ayling for a big fat zero. So while everyone else was probably sitting there thinking, "Don't come on," I was thinking, "I'll take the point, please." Trent, I mean, injured. Yeah, he's going to have to go by the looks of it. Scan due today, so we should know in the next 24 hours or so the prognosis on it. But I suspect he might struggle to play again in 2020, actually.
Yeah.
I had something very similar happen to me a few years back with my calf with no one near me, and it felt like someone shot me in the calf.
Yep.
And I didn't play football for about 3 or 4 months. If he's done the same, he'll be shorter than that, obviously, but it'll still be a while. But he could have easily returned as well, right? With the shot that kind of went through Edison's legs and stopped just before the line and stuff.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish, 6-pointer. I obviously won't be alone here, but how it was only 6 points.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think anybody knows.
He could have had.
He comfortably could have
so
finished this game week as the top scoring player.
No doubt.
So luck, unluck. The -4 that I took. So I brought Grealish in for Mateus Pereira last week, which on Tuesday, before he went up in price, which obviously with Pereira missing out for COVID, although I wasn't going to play Pereira anyway, worked out lovely. Covered the fact I had to leave Pulisic there, still injured as well. And then, of course, on the Thursday night, everybody attached to Brighton seemed to think that Matt Ryan wouldn't play. And, of course, he plays. And he keeps a clean sheet. The positive is, although the hit, and I said this at the time, the hit wasn't going to get me positives for this week, I haven't lost out by a lot, and my team is obviously in much better shape now with Martinez in goal and Grealish in the team, right? Walking into Villa's fixtures. So the fact they got 12 points between them was a little bit of a bonus. It wasn't particularly expected. Of course, I had Charlie Taylor last sub as well, the only player not to get in my team this week. 8-pointer on the bench as well. So there's been luck, there's been unluck. We move on. I'll take any... While I'm taking hits, I'm happy to have any form of green arrow, however small it is. And there's going to be another hit incoming for me before game week 9. It's a certainty, with Trent and Pulisic sitting in the squad.
I moved on Trent for Soufal. Obviously, that worked out particularly well. And then obviously I had to move on Havertz for Kevin De Bruyne, and that could have worked out really well. So I could have had a net incredible week in terms of the transfer movement, but it is what it is, and we move on. We've got plenty of games to talk about. My Saturday night, James. My Saturday night. So, are we allowed to? Are we allowed to admit to illegal activity? I'm talking about streaming. I'm talking about streaming, James. Before you get worried.
You can do what you like. I mean, obviously, for myself personally, I paid £14.95 for 5 games this week, didn't you?
Of course. Well, I didn't for the West Ham Fulham game.
No, I streamed all the fucking games.
So it's.
I streamed all the pay-per-view games.
West Ham Fulham on a stream, right? And obviously, I switch off all notifications on my phone, put it on silent, put it aside, because you're always 30 seconds behind or whatever on the stream, sometimes even a little bit more. So I don't want my phone beeping and then that to happen on screen. I don't mind it for other games, but not when I'm watching West Ham. 91 minutes. Ben Rama passes the ball to Soucek. It froze. Honest to God, it froze. It was about 10 o'clock at night or whatever. 10 to 10, it froze. So I'm looking at the screen, like, is it one of those 3-second buffers and then it just carries on straight away? Or is it a proper buffer where I need to hit refresh? Proper buffer. I looked to my missus, who's sitting on the sofa reading a book. I'm like, I think we've scored, but I don't know. She goes, all right. And I'm like, what? So I was like, sod this. I'm not having this. I picked up my phone. I see the goal. I'm like, great. But even live scores, sometimes the app will rescind goals afterwards, like we saw with McGinn's goal yesterday as well. They'll show the goal and rescind it. So I'm still thinking, is it VAR or is it not? Refresh it. It's a goal Soucek scored. Of all the people to score in the 91st minute, I'm thinking, great. I just turned to my missus. I'm like, we scored. She goes, that's nice. I'm going to bed. And just literally walked out of the room to go to sleep. So then the game carries on, obviously, and I'm watching the game. They cut to a replay of the Soucek goal, and it froze again in the replay of the goal. So I'm like, come on, man, buffering. It waits 20 seconds. I'm like, shit, hit refresh. When I hit refresh, it comes back and the commentator's like, VAR checking this. I was like, checking what, you bastards? I haven't even seen the tackle on the penalty. So I'm like, what? So that it comes back straight away on the replay. You can see Ben Rama's clipped him a little bit there. I'm like, no, come on. And now I don't even know how far behind real life I am. So I picked up my phone again. I'm like, okay, there's no goal on the app yet. Nothing's shown up on the live score. Let me just watch it and see what happens. So Lookman's there. I'm thinking, goal, goal, goal. I've got my phone in one hand, which is ahead of my TV. No goals coming up on the penalty. No goals coming up on the penalty. I'm like, how long is it going to take this guy to take the penalty? Because I have no idea now how far a lag I have on the app and the TV, thinking he must have missed this. He must have missed this. And then it comes up as penalty missed on my phone. I'm like, let me see what he does here. And then he went and clipped the ball like that. And I was like, oh, Christ. I had to sit there for 10 minutes in silence, just figuring out what had just happened in the last 10 minutes of the game, where I couldn't watch it properly and I couldn't get it. But yeah, it was very funny.
So to kind of finish this story, because I got a story of my experience streaming that game, which is a little bit different to yours, I should imagine.
Yeah.
So I was streaming the game on my phone.
Yeah.
And obviously, therefore, I wasn't looking at Twitter or anything like that. I didn't have notifications popping up. I don't have alerts on for SofaScore or anything like that.
Yeah.
And but there was one notification that did come up during the end of that game, and it was a message on WhatsApp. And it said scenes.
Yeah.
And it was from you.
That was before the penalty. So in between...
That's what I was going to ask you. When did you send that?
It was in between the goal and me finding out that there was a penalty. I didn't know about the penalty at the time that I messaged you.
Right. So I've told you this as well. Don't send me shit, because a lot of these games I watch later in the night.
Yeah,
I watch
but normally you
Southampton
warn me.
at like 10 p.m. on Friday night.
Sometimes you do warn me. Don't message me. I'm on catch up.
Yeah. So the thing is, that message came through and Fulham had a corner on what I was watching. So do you know what I thought was going to happen? I thought the goalie was going to score.
Okay, yeah, because Areola came up.
Because the goalie had come up from the corner. So I didn't know why you said scenes. And then obviously after the penalty and stuff, I was like, Jesus, is such a stream like 3 minutes ahead of mine or something. This can't be right. So, yeah, I mean, we'll get onto the penalty and stuff when we talk through the game.
Of course, yeah.
Interesting. The joys of streaming games and delays.
Yeah, and
that's why, to be very honest with you, exactly what you said, and I know people hate it. That's why I paid the money to watch Tottenham.
Yeah, I understand that. I for your own team, I get
games, but I can't be having that during Tottenham.
For your own team, I get it. And the reality is, obviously, the amount of Spurs you watch versus me watching my West Ham, I'm still gonna stream and not bother. I'll do the food bank thing with the $14.99 or whatever else. But yeah, it was just amusing that. It in a strange way enhanced the emotional experience. It was just funny.
I'll tell you what, it wouldn't have enhanced mine as Doherty clipped the ball into the box.
No,
and Curry went to head it. If it had started fucking buffering, I'd have been raging, mate.
Crazy. Let's talk about the games, because there was some really good, interesting football over the weekend, and I'm sure we'll pull out some FPL analysis and kind of options of what did and didn't happen as well. Started off with Brighton 0, Burnley 0. I think the most exciting thing to talk about here would be the team sheet. As soon as it's announced that Mopé and Ryan were both in there, I did spare a thought for you.
My deadline stream went on quite long. It was about an hour, 25 minutes in the end. And somebody said to me about, what time would the team? About 4:20. Someone said to me, James, you better log off the stream before you find out Matt Ryan's in the Brighton team. I was like, yeah, thanks for that. Let me shut this stream down, because I didn't need a few hundred people watching me when I saw the team. Yeah. I would have just cracked up laughing. And that's what I did anyway.
Yeah.
When I saw the team. Like, randomness again from Potter. It was like, okay, Ryan's back in the team. Okay, Morpé's playing. Where's Trossard? What system are they playing this week? Just random, man. Do you know what? For me, it's fuck Brighton, FPL. Just fuck them.
Is he trying to be too clever here, Potter, again?
Possibly, a little bit.
You talked about the end of...
The way they play so...
I was going to say, you remember you talked about the end of Pochettino's reign, where he was just trying to throw different shit at the wall and see what sticks, because it wasn't quite working. But they're not.
No, I don't think it's like that.
No.
I don't think it's like that. I mean, when you look at it and you reflect and go, okay, Danny Welbeck was quite lively in the first half. Him and Maupay played up front. They played a flat three in midfield, basically. Did he want Trossard to play that deep? But we'd seen him, particularly like in the Manchester United game, play that role really well. So I can understand. It was just from a team sheet perspective and thinking with your FPL head, it was like, what is this? I think all of us are probably sitting there, Tariq Lamptey owners, thinking which week's he going to leave him out. The good news is Tariq Lamptey is playing way too well to be left out of the team. But from an FPL perspective, forget him. Because as well, and the Brighton fans will agree with this, they are so frustrating to watch. They watch, it must feel like for Brighton fans that they watch the same game every week.
Yep.
Dominate the game, look the better team, don't look like scoring. And the second half, for all the domination, they never looked like it was going to score. Never had a proper effort on goal. Admittedly, Burnley bodies on the line, blocking so many things. But I think they had like one shot on target in the second half from double figures of attempts and stuff. They're just frustrating. They're really frustrating. They can forget, because of what the results they've had recently. You can't be drawing at home to Burnley and West Brom and stuff and be expecting to be finishing top half. They can forget that. I feel like their season is going to meander into nowhere. And the reason it's going to meander into nowhere is because there are 4 or 5 teams that are definitely worse than them.
Yep.
And they'll be comfy enough, and they'll win some games you don't expect them to, and they'll lose some games you don't expect them to. But they've generally speaking, they've got enough goals throughout the team that they'll be all right. But my hopes for them to have an improved season on last season, I'm not convinced about now. They're just frustrating. I thought Adam Lallana was great again. Tariq Lamptey's great. He remains a decent FPL asset as long as he's far away from his own goal, because he will get the odd attack in return. But I think for Brighton now, you'd be looking at moving on their assets. Villa, Liverpool, Southampton, Leicester, the next 4. Generally speaking, you'd be looking to move on. And
yeah, I agree with you. I feel like Brighton, quite often, I've had the similar thing with West Ham in the past, where we've been on paper too good to go down, but we just don't quite always get results. We draw games we should win, and we lose games we should draw. And Brighton have that same problem where they're not able to convert the draws into wins and hold on to draws sometimes. And you're right. I mean, they are still way better than Fulham, West Brom, probably Burnley and Sheffield United. And to be honest, from my FPL point of view, the only one I would go near is Lamptey, and he's already now like more expensive than other 4.5s that you can get, even like Soufal or Masuaku. I just don't think he's worth the extra 0.3. You may bench him quite a lot of weeks as well, so is it really worth the extra money? I don't think so. But Burnley, you're about to say, I mean, 3 goals scored all season so far. You, as a Burnley fan, yeah, and 2 of them were against Leicester, where you've got beat 4-2. To keep watching your side and not score goals. I mean, Fulham have scored 7.
And let's be honest, not look like scoring.
Yeah,
this is
-9.
It's not like Brighton are having domination and stuff and fucking about with it. Burnley don't look like scoring base unless they've got set piece. Don't look like they're going to score.
If you'd said to me Burnley are going to have a goal difference of -9 after 7 games, I'd be like, no way. They're good at keeping it tight, but doesn't look good at all.
I've still got Charlie Taylor, and I fully intend to play him in game week 9 as they're at home to Palace. After that, it's grim up to Boxing Day. City, Everton, Arsenal, Villa, Wolves, Leeds is a grim 6 fixtures when you're in a struggling position and not scoring goals. And I don't doubt with Burnley that they'll get some results over that period that we don't expect them to on paper. But if you've got there like Woods and stuff like that, move it on. There are so many better options in other teams that look more capable at the moment. I think if you're sitting there on Taylor, he's kind of survived the price drop. He's still 4.5. And because we've got Palace next, there's actually a little bit of investment there. So, I mean, as I said, I'm going to play him in game week 9. I wouldn't come off. And I still think he's fine to sit there as a second or third sub, even through those difficult runs, because as Turfy Topper always tells us, they will keep clean sheets in games that you don't expect them to. And it's from that perspective that I still just about think they'll probably be all right. I feel like Chris Wood will have a run at some stage, but right now, in terms of progressive and looking like they're going to score goals, they really, really don't. they've had some decent results against Brighton in the last couple of years, but other than Matt Lowton's cross that hit the bar, they never looked like they were going to score in this game. And Brighton, without Dunk, were there to be taken advantage of defensively, and Burnley just did not put them under any pressure, really.
We're talking about a side that were progressive and did look like scoring with every attack. Southampton 2, Newcastle 0. I didn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights, but it just felt like everything Southampton created was because the intensity with which they put pressure on Newcastle when Newcastle had the ball. The amount of times they nicked the ball back and then just broke and attacked the back line for Newcastle was again and again and again and again. Southampton looked like when Southampton are at their best under Hasenhüttl, that's what they do, right? High energy, getting about the pitch, and they just did it to perfection without the main man, Danny Ings.
You missed an extremely good performance. They were thoroughly enjoyable.
Everything I saw on Twitter was so positive about the way they played.
They are, when they play with intensity and get it right, they are the best in the league at doing it. Genuinely,
agree with you.
Really good. Throughout the team, even the fact that even McCarthy had nothing to do during the game, basically, but pulled out one worldy save from Joel Linton.
Yep.
They coped well with, obviously, missing Bertrand and Vokins, who's the backup at left back. Stevens played there. It wasn't great, but what they did was they compensated. They didn't ask Stevens to play the game like Bertrand would play the game. He sat there quite comfortably and kind of, particularly in the first half, ended up with what Tottenham had a few times last season with Aurea playing out wide. Like Walker-Peters just went because he knew that Stevens was going to sit more on the other side. Two centre-backs, solid enough. Vestergaard, in fairness, he's playing well at the moment, Vestergaard. I still think he's got mistakes in him, but he's playing well.
He's an FPL, what would you call him? A dream FPL asset at the moment. He's picking up points week in, week out, is Vestergaard.
Yes, but I don't think that will continue, to be honest.
I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't buy it.
Romeo, along with probably Douglas Luiz at Villa, are probably the two best at what they're doing at the moment of all the teams in terms of out-and-out protector. Probably Romeo a little bit more so because Ward-Prowse wants to go and completely press. But as you'll see in the Villa game last night, like McGinn would fly forward and stuff. Ward-Prowse playing really well. Armstrong on the right was brilliant. Gineppo would have claimed assist of the season for the one that Walcott put wide. Theo Walcott had his best game of football probably in about 4 or 5 years, I would say. Genuinely brilliant, playing in a number 10, dropping short in the same way Danny Ings does, pressing off the ball, and Adams up front, he's great.
Yeah.
He's really good.
The way he took his goal,
just all round,
really hit it
brilliant.
Well, yeah.
If you'd have said to me, I tweeted after the game and said there's no way that Southampton could have played like that a year ago without Ings and Redmond. And at the moment, Redmond's sitting on the bench and stuff. Really good. Really good. They could do whatever they wanted this year, I think. They're still going to lose some sloppy games, I think, because defensively it's still not good enough. But they got a shot of pushing for Europe. If they can maintain that intensity, they're obviously in a position till December where they're playing once a week, which all the European teams are basically in that, non-European teams are in that position at the moment. And because of the high energy, it's fine for them. I think they'll find that when you get into sort of December, January, and they're playing midweek weekend, etc., then they're going to struggle. But at the moment, absolutely fine. Their fixtures aren't great. I've got Wolves, United, Arsenal and Man City's 4 of their next 6 fixtures. It's not brilliant. I think from an FPL perspective, it's still okay to go for Che Adams because of his value. You might argue there's obviously others like Watkins has better fixtures and stuff. But if you're looking to have, say, 2 of Watkins, Bamford and Adams in around that price range, which I think a lot of people are beginning to lean to, Adams is still fine. Fit his value. That's where I'd go if I was going to invest in any of them.
I had
Newcastle.
I was going to ask you about Alex McCarthy because I have a Ramsdale problem.
Yeah.
McCarthy's still sitting at 4.5 million. The likes of Martinez, who has a much better fixture run, has gone up to 4.8. I've just lost another 0.1 on Ramsdale, annoyingly, overnight. But I don't know where I want to go with it. I may go to McCarthy. And I know you mentioned the tricky run that they have. But in amongst that, Brighton, Sheffield United, Fulham, West Ham, there are a few clean sheets between now and Christmas. Even Arsenal, who looked toothless yesterday. I can see at least 3 or 4 clean sheets there. What else do you expect from a 4.5 keeper, you know?
You've just sat through 3 really difficult Ramsdale fixtures, and their next 2 are West Ham and West Brom.
Yeah. We'll get to them.
Hang around, man.
You also said to me...
I'll come on to Ramsdale and how bad he was at the weekend.
You also said to me, when does Sheffield United ever get battered 3s and 4s? Well, they did.
Yeah, we'll get on to them.
I think McCarthy isn't a bad shout, to be honest with you. I think he'll tick along, and if he gets me 1 clean sheet every 2.5 games or something, that's fine for me.
It's of him, Meslier and Ryan. I don't think I'm missing, or perhaps Sam Johnston at West Brom. To be honest, you can make a case for Johnston, right? After United, they've got Sheffield United, Palace, Newcastle's 3 in a row.
I think with McCarthy, I feel more comfortable leaving him as a set and forget than anyone else, McCarthy.
The thing is, I think you should have forced through the change on Ramsdale weeks ago. And I feel like now with West Ham and West Brom next, that's not like, if it's West Ham without Antonio, you don't really want to sell Ramsdale.
No, but if it's West Ham with Antonio, I think we'll score 2 or 3 against Sheffield United. So,
Oh, that's a big claim.
Yeah,
that'll make the Yanksy Tevez people happy that you said that.
Everton
Newcastle,
won. Oh, go on.
Bad.
Newcastle, not good.
Just bad. Look. Their points total of all 20 teams, their points total is the most laughable of all of them. Forget Man United's low total, etc. The fact that Newcastle have got so many points is I don't know how. What they've got is a major cushion over the bottom 4 or 5. And while they've got that major cushion, they'll be fine. They also, interestingly, after Chelsea, I would say they're probably the best 5 fixtures in a row between game weeks 10 and 14, quite arguably, with Palace, Villa, West Brom, Leeds and Fulham in those 5. Callum Wilson, we think might... Well, he obviously went off injured on Friday night. We don't know the extent of what it is, but if his hamstring is likely to miss a bit, there is no other Newcastle player that I would be happy to invest in for that period.
Yeah,
none.
And the
and
problem
personally, I would still rather have the likes of Adams, Bamford, Watkins
exactly
over Wilson fit, even with those fixtures. They'll do your head in, Newcastle, as far as I'm concerned.
I was going to say, there's just too many good options at 6 million or less to worry about Callum Wilson at 6.5. Let's talk about Everton 1, Manchester United 3. I'm not one to want to use your words to bash you on the head, James, but I want to use them to get an explanation out of you. You said if James Rodriguez played for Everton, you thought they would win. And in the end, United have run out fairly comfortable and did have a number of chances as well that could have scored more.
So on our Patreon podcast on Friday, what score did I predict? 2-1 United. Well, I got that wrong, didn't I?
But it was what is happening here with Everton? Because they've gone off the rails a little bit.
No, it's really simple, mate. James wasn't fit. Okay. He definitely played with an injury, 100%. He probably shouldn't have played the game. It's very simple, mate. Richarlison will be back next week. Don't worry about it.
You think so?
Genuinely,
simple as that.
We spoke about this after even Tottenham in game week 1 and said, must keep main players fit.
Yep.
Absolutely. If Dean squares to Calvert-Lewin or scores at 1-1, they probably go on and win the game. They struggled massively for creativity because literally no pace without Richarlison. And James, for me, was injured.
Yep.
So they really, really struggled. And United defended properly. It became a game that we've seen before, not so much recently, perhaps a year, 18 months or so, that has really began to suit Manchester United in terms of, okay, let's defend with a block, we can counter with proper players. And Everton played into the hands a little bit. what ended up having Everton in the game was a real issue around, and I've been quite critical of Bruno Fernandes in terms of his work rate so far this season. No criticism on him Saturday. He went out there and put on a captain's display. Now, there was a lot he did in that game, which wasn't great, by the way. But there were certain players on the Everton side, I think in particular like Seamus Coleman, was right up for it. And Bruno kept giving back. To whoever give him some, he kept giving back. And do you know what? He was on the edge of potentially getting sent off. But I think United needed that sort of performance from someone to say, all right, I'm going to stand up for this now and do my thing. And obviously, he's had the key contributions in the game as well. With one, a goal that we probably wouldn't expect him to score, but he's shown that he can arrive in the box and score a good header. And obviously, he's ended up with a second goal, which, I mean, he's obviously looking for the assist for Rashford. And of course, in that position at the end for Cavani, he's a little bit like De Bruyne. He's going to make the right decision. You know that as well. Interesting thing on Fernandes, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do know that in home games since he joined the club, he hasn't scored a goal from open play.
Yep. Which
is a staggering statistic. All his returns at Old Trafford have been penalties, or I think there was one free kick on the edge of the box against Bournemouth during the restart period. He hasn't scored from open play. There's a number of people who are going to captain him in game week 9. Now, I don't think you should use that sort of statistic to put you off, because, listen, statistics are there to be done, records to be broken, etc. But it probably does add some weight to the fact that, actually, if you play against a side that's going to put up more of a defensive block, it's going to be more difficult, less spacing behind, etc. Do you know what? West Brom aren't going to allow it. I can tell you that from what I saw yesterday. They're going to go there. They're probably going to play a flat 5 defensively that's going to translate into a 5-4-1 without the ball. And they're going to make life difficult for Manchester United. So from being in a position probably a couple of weeks ago, from really targeting and wanting, do you know what? I want to probably be in a position where I'm going Fernandes or Rashford captain against West Brom. I'm possibly in a position where going with the 3 fixtures afterwards. Southampton away, West Ham away, I don't think are good fixtures for United. I think on the counter-attack, actually, Southampton might be interested. Then they play Man City. It doesn't overly appeal to me from an FPL perspective, those fixtures. And it might be, ironically, that I just lean into no assist Calvert-Lewin for the armband in game week 9 as Everton play Fulham. And timing-wise, with Richarlison coming back, that couldn't be better for them. Hopefully they'll get 2 weeks now to get James fit.
It's interesting. You mentioned about Fernandes' statistic about not scoring from open play at home. I heard that Everton haven't won without Richarlison in the team since 2018. Something.
They've won. I know they've won since he joined the club. They've won once
without him. Yeah, incredible statistic, and shows his importance in the team. So
crucial, because none of the replacements can. And it's the same for James if he's not 100%. These guys are crucial, right? You take that front 3, there ain't nothing they've got in reserve that someone can replicate what they do. Whereas you can say, okay, Cavani, Martial, it's not a like for United, but you're still equating to very good forward to very good forward, right? They play obviously very differently. But Everton just don't have the replacements. Moise Kean's gone to PSG. He's scoring goals for fun, by the way. Yep. And Everton are bringing on Cenk Tosun. I think someone at the club maybe wants to go and have a second look at why that's happened.
Yep.
Because that's not the answer. Bernard, I actually thought played okay again, but he's not going to equate to James or Richarlison in terms of attacking returns.
No doubt.
Sigurdsson, I don't even want to talk about him anymore. And Iwobi, he's just nothing. He's lively. He links well. Final stuff. He ain't going to score returns from when he plays. So that front 3 is crucial. And do you know what? You might find Everton's next 3 games of Fulham, Leeds, Burnley, psychologically with Richarlison back in the team, they might do very well in the next 3 games.
If I use your words, James, to ask you what happened when you get it wrong, I'm going to use your words to ask you what happened when you get it right. You said that Leeds were going to bloody a few noses, but also get a spanking when you least expect it. And Crystal Palace 4, Leeds 1 was probably exactly that scenario. So, what happened?
I'm still struggling to explain what I saw here. So, I mean, I don't want to talk about the offside stuff. We've done all this thing to death. We know it's a nonsense. This one is the worst one yet.
I agree with you.
It's the worst one yet.
What
Let's
you
just leave
said
it there,
exactly. Like you can't point to where you want the ball to go. It's
fucking
ridiculous.
absurd.
Not even that. I think that Kouyaté played him onside with his ass. But then that's a let's not go down this road.
The only thing, just to sum that up, the only blessing I can see with things like this happening is that there's enough pressure for people to say, we don't want this and shit. And anyway, let's not go down there. So obviously that would have made it 1-1, and potentially you're looking at a very different game from there, as opposed to he gets another great chance, Bamford, and scores and makes it 2-1. It's a little bit different. And then the third goal is as fucking bizarre from Meslier's perspective. How does it go in? I don't know. But I want to talk about, and I'm open to the idea of Leeds fans telling me that I'm wrong on what I've watched here, because I saw something that I don't think I've seen before. So there was a lot of stuff on my timeline on Friday about Luke Ayling being a brilliant prospect for this particular game week. And I'll be honest, I was sitting there a bit nervous myself that I'd left him on the bench. Now, he's ended up coming in the team for me and getting me a 0. Great, brilliant. What I saw was this. Luke Ayling played right back. Stuart Dallas played right midfield. And Helder Costa played right wing. Now, if someone wants to tell me that I'm wrong, please tell me. I'm okay to be proven wrong, because what I saw with my eyes and then what I looked at heat maps, etc. afterwards, that's what the story tells me. So for me to define to you what that formation was from Leeds, I'm not sure that I can, because I don't think I've ever seen a team set up with 3 players on one side of the pitch. And that's genuinely what it was. Now, I don't know if it was a case of they went, do you know what, PVA on that side, Zaha likes to float out there, so they end up with 3-on-2s. If that was the thinking, that it was going to completely shut down that side of the pitch. Well, basically, 3 of the goals came from the left-hand side of the pitch, so it didn't work. I don't know what it was.
Well, I think
I'm not sure. And to be honest, it's not a case of saying Leeds played badly or anything. They didn't. It wasn't a 4-1 game. Naive is a word that you would use for some of the defending and stuff. But I just don't know what it was tactically. I'm not going to question Bielsa, but I don't know what it was.
There was a bit of discussion around Stuart Dallas and Ayling in a Sky Fantasy chat on Hub yesterday, which was interesting because I own Dallas in both games, and it came back down to one comment at the end that I actually think is really important. Calvin Phillips is not too far away, and Calvin Phillips comes back into that team and suddenly it's going to be a big difference. So if people are thinking, right, time to get rid of the Leeds defence, and there were a lot of tweets, why did we think Leeds defensively were good? Well, you take Calvin Phillips out, loads of teams will struggle without their good defensive holding midfielder, and he's very, very good, right? Take Rice out of our team, take Højbjerg out of your team, and so on. Loads of teams will struggle. So I think if he comes back into that team from a defensive point of view, they get a little bit more solidity for sure. So I'm not about to jump off Leeds' defence, albeit I know they've just conceded a ton of goals this week.
No, and I wouldn't. I think Leeds' assets, whether you got them forward or defensively, is absolutely fine. They've lost the last 2 games 4-1, and I suggested this sort of thing might happen when you don't expect it. They weren't 4-1 games. They've deserved to lose both games. But neither was particularly 4-1. We mentioned last week about, look, if Hernandez had made it 2-2 against Leicester, they probably would have gone on 1. They've had the disallowed goal here. Bamford makes it 2-1, and the third goal is just a freak. It's a freak. I mean, if that occurrence happened 1,000 times over, it wouldn't end up in the net. It's almost unfathomable to see how it ended up in the net. So certain things went against them. I think Dallas owners particularly, what you have to accept is, in terms of picking him, you might be second guessing where he's playing, because this was something altogether different in terms of the shape of the way they played. I still don't know how to define that as a formation in terms of what it was. How do you describe 3 players playing on one side of the pitch? And it didn't overly benefit them in the game. But Ayling, Dallas, fine. Click, fine. Harrison, fine. Helder Costa's place might be under threat, because I thought Rafinha was quite lively when he came on in the second half. And Bamford's absolutely fine. Don't fear the next 3 fixtures, Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea. With Leeds, I wouldn't even look at fixtures, I don't think.
Yep.
We've got Andy Martin on Clash of the Correspondents Thursday. It'd be really interesting to see what he's got to say about things.
What about Palace? Are you looking at Palace? I need everybody to buy Zaha, because if he gets another 0.1 rise, then I can take 2.2 as a value increase and move away from him after game week 11. So if you are looking at Zaha, definitely buy him, is my advice.
You've nailed it. Next 3 fixtures, fantastic. And I think what you might find is a lot of people who might be sitting on Trent end up on Van Aanholt, you know, because of Palace's next 3 fixtures. Burnley, Newcastle, West Brom. From a defensive perspective, it doesn't get, particularly if Newcastle haven't got Wilson, it doesn't get a lot better than that. And the Newcastle game's at home as well. So Palace, really interesting over the next couple. I wouldn't invest in Zaha now, personally. If you've got, you definitely hold. The defensive ones are interesting. The only thing I would say about that, in terms of looking at Palace defensively, is you might find that it's that, and it becomes like quite a short-term decision, because following the next 3, their fixtures up until January the 2nd afterwards are Tottenham, West Ham, Liverpool, Villa, Leicester and Arsenal. So after that fixture against West Brom, it turns a little bit nasty for them.
Let's talk about Chelsea 4, Sheffield United 1, which for many people is the Hakim Ziyech show here, where he's started the last 2 games. He's delivered in both of those games. For me, Son to Ziyech is very much on the cards now.
He was a joy to watch. You could have given the man a match probably by the hour mark. Really, really good. I think he definitely had the best XA of all players in the Premier League at the weekend, which is, I think against Sheffield United particularly, that's quite significant, actually. The fact that he was playing passes that were opening doors, and you think even the one that Werner missed, which flicked the outside the post. You don't see, in the space of 5-10 minutes, a player having 2 chances like the 2 chances that Werner had against Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Admittedly, the second one was through an incredible assist from N'Golo Kante.
I mean, just give him assist of the season
assist of
now.
the season. Award it now, mate.
Oh, dear. Unbelievable. I don't even think Kante touched it. Surely, did he? I didn't even think that Kante touched the ball.
Technically, Kante, it's not wrong to give Kante the assist in any way, because the ball was fired at Kante and ended up going through to Werner. It has to be his assist, technically, whether it's intentional or not. But Ziyech, brilliant. He's going to get a lot of attention. I can see that, the Son to Ziyech move, etc. What does it free up? That would be the key thing I'd probably want to know from people, because I don't think there's enough in it to warrant that change, unless the other transfers getting you enough. Because Chelsea will come into more difficult fixtures as well.
Barkley to Grealish.
I tell you what though, mate, Ross Barkley's doing bits as well.
He was.
Right at the
value. Yesterday was the first time, and we'll move on to that game, where I didn't fear the Grealish imbalance. I didn't think Grealish was going to absolutely smash Barkley out of the water in terms of points, which I hadn't felt in the previous 2 games. So, but we'll talk about Villa when we get to them. Chelsea, who do you own? You don't own anyone, do you?
Oh, yeah, I got Pulisic, mate.
Pulisic. Oh, yeah. You got the right one then. Well, Pulisic to Ziyech is an easy move for you, surely.
Can I talk about that when I get onto Liverpool?
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
It's probably not for me, no. I think psychologically, for someone like me who's kind of fixture planner kind of guy, I feel like I've missed the best of it already. I am not overly keen on going on Chelsea now, unless I was. I think Reece James is still incredible value, and I think Ziyech might prove to be incredible value. I also don't think it will take many more games like that with Ziyech that people go, you ain't coming on your left foot no more, and people will begin to shut it down in the same way that everybody shut down this Heung-min Son running in behind thing, right?
Yep.
Teams do learn. There's a lot of naivety defensively in Premier League teams, but teams tend to learn when something keeps happening over and over again. So Chelsea probably no for me. If I was to move from Pulisic to someone at the same value, yeah, I probably would pick up Ziyech, to be fair. It's not going to be the right move for me, I don't think, though.
Sheffield United, are they? I mean, I am shocked to be saying, are they going down?
I don't know if they're going down, but I think they're going to be very close to it.
I mean, we talked about goal difference. I mean, Burnley -10, Burnley -9, Sheffield United -10 after 8 games.
But actually, Sheffield United -10 with the fixtures and the results they've had shouldn't be surprised. I mean, that basically their dog run is finished. It's over now, and the best thing they can do is clear their heads and go, do you know what? That first 8, in hindsight, thinking back on it and going, even like Wolves at home, Leeds at home, Villa away, it's been a really, really tough run. The only fixture that, in hindsight, that you would have expected them to win was Fulham at home. And to be honest, they easily could have lost that as well. So it's concerning. It's concerning because you just do not see goals in this team. And that's why, same goes. If you ask me right now, who will stay up? If one of Burnley or Sheffield United would go down, if you ask me now which one would go down, I would say the one that scores the least goals. Actually, right now, I would possibly expect Burnley to score more.
Yeah, even the goal they scored against Chelsea, the way that the Chelsea back 5 retreated and just left that space there in and around the penalty area was surprising for me.
And the reason I say that is because I know that, like, if Rodriguez comes back in for Barnes and they get that Wood and Jay Rodriguez firing again, the two of them can score goals.
Yeah,
I don't see any partnership at Sheffield United that's going to score goals currently. I feel like right now the pressure on Brewster is so big.
Yeah,
and the poor lad, Dan FPL Loco Lord, spoke about this on Correspondent Week in pre-season, our Liverpool correspondent, and he spoke about his concern that Sheffield United, he was obviously thinking loan at the time, that Sheffield United just wasn't the right fit for him. And I'm becoming concerned about that as well now. Now, we shouldn't overly, because the 3 games he's just played is Liverpool, City, Chelsea, right? Let's see how he gets on against West Ham and West Brom. And actually, it might be in the next couple of weeks that I take a chance on him in terms of what I want to do in my squad, because some of the fixtures that are coming up. But would it fill me with joy or expectancy that he's going to be getting returns? Not really. I'm worried for them. I think O'Connell is a far bigger miss than what anybody could have understood. It really gives them difficulty on the left side. I think Ender Stevens is doing his best, and I think Max Lowe at wing back will improve the more that he plays. He's got a lot of tackles in at the weekend, to be fair, but like defensively, it's just a bit more shaky. They might be better for getting Ampadu back in the team. Obviously, was ineligible at the weekend as well. It's not right though. You wouldn't be if you was to invest in one of their players, you would only go for Brewster because of the cheapness of obviously his price coming into these fixtures. And do you know what? Timing wise, it's not a bad time to take that gamble if you want to restructure the way your team looks with West Ham and West Brom in the next 2. It's not the worst time. Ramsdale, mate. The Chilwell goal is so laughable. It's worth saying, by the way, Ben Chilwell, I think it was only one player who had more shots in the box for him at the game week or something. Like, brilliant numbers.
Really? The Fonz. Yeah, I'm going to call him the Fonz from now on. The way he's got his slick back hair. All he needs is a leather jacket, mate, and he'll be there.
Chelsea's fullbacks, I mean, for Trent replacements as well, I think a lot of people will go to Chilwell and Reece James as well. And because of what's just happened, I think a lot will lean to Ben Chilwell. Ramsdale on that goal, though, mate, is so bad. You've let, from a wide free kick, you've let one of the smallest players in the opposition team
at the back
score with his fire from 2 yards. That cannot happen.
Agree with you.
Cannot happen. There was no one going to tell me that if Dean Henderson was in goal for Sheffield United this season, they wouldn't be on more points. They would be.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have conceded as many goals either. And that's also now a problem because psychologically, defensively, they've lost their 2 most important players in Henderson and O'Connell now through injury.
Yeah. And
I think it's making the others nervous and make mistakes that they wouldn't have made 6-12 months or so ago. Ramsdale's a concern. That's not a problem they can fix. I'm not saying he's a bad goalkeeper necessarily. He's young, right? He'll get better. But right now, I don't think he's what Sheffield United need because he doesn't command in any way. And he doesn't give other players confidence.
No. And you talked about their next game, which leads us on to West Ham 1, Fulham 0. And we talked about the buffering issues that we had. The truth be told, up until the 90th minute, I didn't have any other buffering issues and managed to watch the game comfortably, which ended up as a 1-0 robbery by West Ham. I think it should have been a draw based on the performance. But we started the game so brightly.
Really well.
I was concerned. Like, going into the game, it's easy to be the underdog against the big boys and then come out swinging. When in games that you've got to win and be on the front foot, I really was concerned that we wouldn't do that. And we came out, and obviously Arioli had to make a number of good saves, hit the bar, and I thought at that time, right, you know what? At least we've shown that we can take the game by the scruff of the neck and create chances. And I thought we were really good. A lot of the good work came from what we've been doing well, which is overloading the fullback areas like Masuaku and Creswell on one side and Soufal on the other side. We did well when we pushed the ball out to the flanks and bombed on, and that was where we were able to increase the tempo of the game. Having said that, I never felt totally in control. Like, Fulham are decent on the ball. We talked about this before. Through their midfield area, I thought they controlled that area really well, and Rice and Souček had to really hold their position because Kearney and Lookman and what have you were busy in and around that edge of the box. I never felt fully comfortable that we were going to keep a clean sheet, that we had some defending to do there. So I thought Fulham were all right, but we did show that if we increased the tempo, we could create chances in the first half. Second half, we just didn't bomb on the flanks, especially on the Masuaku side, and that's where Fulham were able to take control of the game. I honestly thought second half they were the better team. They controlled the tempo better, they created chances better, without being like crazily threatening. But they definitely controlled the tempo of the game better. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes, we pulled on pressure and eventually it told. I mean, Soufal basically was a right winger in the last 10, 15 minutes. I feel for Lookman because prior to that penalty, he was, for Fulham especially, best player on the pitch. Creative, direct, a few bits of really good skill, had a couple of shots. I thought he was good, but he's going to get remembered for that penalty.
He's a terrific little talent. It's a shame. I don't really want to butcher him because he's so young as well, right?
And he was good.
You
He was good.
Scott Parker was so right what he said after the game, and to be honest, it was the best thing to get people to stop talking about it, was to say, if you're going to take that penalty in the last minute of a football match, you got to score. It's not unacceptable. And to be honest, how many have we ever seen where someone's done that basically the last kick of the game?
Yep.
To equalise as well. Not even to win, but to equalise. Oh, man. You could tell, in my opinion, that as he went to kick the ball, in his own head, he went, what have I done? It's like he stopped. He completely stopped and never put his foot through the ball. Not as in, I mean, if you're doing a Panenka, you're not going to put your foot through the ball anyway. But it was almost like it felt like his body stopped, as in, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
Yeah, bad. Oh, Jesus. He's a good little talent. You're not going to be looking at Fulham assets at the moment because of what comes next. And I suspect for a lot of people, there'll be someone listening to this podcast now who I can tell you their next four captains now will be Calvert-Lewin, Jamie Vardy, Raheem Sterling, Mohamed Salah.
Yep.
Which is Fulham's next four fixtures. And we spoke about this last week, about the idea of attack Fulham. It's worth saying, and admittedly West Brom and a West Ham against Antonio, not the two most difficult fixtures, but they've very nearly had back-to-back clean sheets since Anderson's come into the team.
Yep.
I also think, and because it wasn't flagged at the time, it's not the sort of goal I want to see disallowed, but even David Moyes said after the game that, basically Anderson goes to win the header because Allaire is in an offside position and forces him to play the ball. And if Allaire's not there and not interfering, he lets the ball go over his head and it's a goal kick. So I'm not sure the goal should have counted, but technically on law, it's correct. It's just, morally, it's a bit wrong, the fact that he's under pressure and that's why he heads it. If the guy isn't offside, he doesn't go and head it. So, they've nearly kept back-to-back clean sheets. They might not be the whipping boys that everybody thinks that they're going to be. I see slow improvements in them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought they were good.
Actually, when I think about, if I group the bottom four at the moment, Fulham, West Brom, Burnley, Sheffield United, Fulham might be the side that scores the most goals out of the four of them. It genuinely might be.
Yep.
And that might give them half a shot,
Yeah, I agree with you.
because out the four they might score the most goals, and it genuinely might come to that which one of them's going to score the 1 or 2 goals in a game that will get you 3 points or a point rather than no points, etc. So I wouldn't rule, and the same one, I'll come on to West Brom in a sec, I wouldn't rule either of them as dead and buried yet.
No.
I think very slowly they're getting better. That said, it's still going to be very difficult from an FPL perspective not to try and take advantage of them in the next couple of weeks, because they are still capable, and I think particularly when they go 1 or 2 down in a game, their heads go down, and it can get ugly for them.
If you're
not going to buy any of their assets.
No. If you're looking at buying West Ham assets, this is I think defensively, Masuaku and Tufal still decent options at 4.5. They're getting so far high up the pitch. In a strange way, I'd almost pay the extra. If money was no object in this game, I'd pay the extra for Creswell, just because his delivery is streets ahead of the others. Masuaku will cock up 50% of his crosses, whereas Creswell's left foot is so good, and his free kick obviously could have ended up in a goal as well. But 5.1 million, I don't know if there's that many people with enough money to be dropping 5.1 million on a West Ham defender. And if Antonio's fit for the Sheffield United game, or as soon as we know that he is fit, Moyes did say that he was back to running outside again, so after the international break, could well be 6.2 million. We are creating chances. Him in place of Haller, and I think we would have won comfortably on the weekend. I think he would have just been much better at hold-up play and given us much better outball and been busier. So Antonio, when he's fit at 6.2 million, I think a lot of people should look at him.
Yeah, FIFPL had it. He says it repeatedly in terms of the West Ham just can't play the same way in terms of build-up of attack with Haller rather than Antonio.
Yep.
Antonio gives you the different dimension to be able to draw a team onto you and just knock the thing down the channel. And I think what happened in the second half was you became quite one-dimensional. I think defensively, personally, I still think Masuaku is the best choice, by the way. He could have scored very early in the game.
Yep.
With one of a number of chances you had in the first sort of 10 minutes or so. I think he gets a lot higher than Soufal. I think Soufal
definitely not in the last 15 minutes. I mean, Soufal was camped in the Fulham, on the edge of the Fulham box for ages.
Yeah, but then that's because Fulham got deeper as well, I would say.
True.
Whereas Masuaku can burst past people. Soufal's not going to go past someone. Masuaku's the ability to go past people because of pace and skill.
Yeah.
So I would still prefer him personally in terms of what could be a very big return for you. Although I think time was probably the previous week to go and have a look, because following Sheffield United, Villa United Leeds actually looks a little bit difficult. Antonio, anytime. I also want to have a description for Souček, because you and I, Suj, and a number of other people listening to this, and I tweeted this at 8:01 p.m. and apologies to the people who read my tweet and thought he'd already scored. No, it was just a spoiler.
Yeah.
Had waited 2 months for this particular fixture. So to get rewarded in injury time with it was quite nice. But something occurred to me during the game, watching him, was 2 things. One, from an FPL perspective, it's the equivalent of playing Graham Taylor football, having him in your FPL team. It feels like, I'm playing long ball FPL. That's how it feels.
Yep.
The second thing is, because you know there's only one way he's going to score. He's in the box, ball comes to him. The second thing is actually on the build-up, which was really interesting. And this happened more and more the way the game went on. So we've spoken a lot, Suj, about how when you've got the ball, he just drifts into the box. And obviously, defensively, he gets back in when you haven't got the ball. He never looks like he's running fast, but he must cover a lot of ground in games.
Yep.
What was really interesting was in terms of you being a bit slower in the second half, and when Fulham started getting a little bit deeper and thinking if we could sit in, we can isolate the odd counter-attacking moment, which a couple of times, if pass had been better, could have been on for them, was there were times where the ball went into Soufal or Masuaku and Souček wasn't in position to attack the box. So do you know what you did? You went backwards and across and to the other side until it was ready.
Interesting.
Every single time that Souček wasn't in position to attack the box, the cross didn't come in.
I didn't notice that, to be honest with you.
He is always in and around it. Whether you're going to think... Most of the time he doesn't get on the end of it, but he's always in and around it. And I think it's just something I picked up as the game went on, that it felt like Souček's not in position, we're not going to put the cross in.
Yep.
Because it's Souček arriving late, whether he gets there or not, causes enough chaos like Antonio's goal at Leicester, where suddenly someone sees Souček, oh, my eyes off it, and then Antonio's in at the back post. So it's something to keep an eye on in terms of West Ham's build-up, that actually they only seem to sling the thing in the box if Souček can make it.
Yep. Let's rattle through the next 4 games that we have to go through as well. Starting with your boys, everybody was hoping for Harry Kane captaincy, Heung-min Son captaincy.
It worked out right for Kane owners, didn't it?
Just.
Listen, I keep telling people, right? Souček, Kane, these are Jack Grealish the previous week. I really get annoyed with people losing their shit at half-time of football games. Like, there isn't normally more goals in the second half of a game anyway. Game lasts for 90 minutes and plenty more, guys. So, bad from Tottenham. I'm not going to paint it up any differently. It's the 3rd shit performance in a row and we've won all 3 of them. And before that, we were playing better and didn't win as many games. No. Now, I think the teams that we played, Burnley, Brighton and West Brom, are 3 of the weakest going forward. We've spoken about all of them now. So that's why Spurs' defensive numbers look better. I think that's why we've won the game, because we've got goal scorers who, given the opportunity, even look at the winning goals. Kane to Son set piece, Bale header from across, and then Kane header from across. Actually, untypical Spurs goals against these type of oppositions, what won us the game, ironically. So there's positives in terms of winning games when you don't deserve to, and we've not deserved to win any of these last 3 league games, in my opinion. I think you will find that my honest opinion is that Spurs are going to have some very bad results in the next 6 to 8 game weeks. But with some of the fixtures coming up, that's not to be particularly unexpected. Is it time to jump off Kane and Son will be the biggest question. And to be honest, it's not a straightforward answer to say yes or no. It depends completely on what you've got, right? What are you doing? If you sell Harry Kane now, where are you going? What are you doing with the money? Does that allow you to throw in, an Ollie Watkins, for example, and Kevin De Bruyne or Raheem Sterling to go with it, or Mohamed Salah? Then I'm not going to tell you no with what Spurs have got coming up. And similarly, if you want to go the other way with Son, if it allows you to come off, if you think, Ziyech, and then it allows me something else in midfield, for example, then yeah, absolutely fine. I don't think City is the game to feel like, I have to come off. It's worth saying Son's got 4 in his last 3 appearances against Manchester City. He does tend to give them problems in the same way that like Jamie Vardy has. And ironically, Son against City and Chelsea might have more joy than he's had in against Burnley, Brighton and West Brom, for example.
Teams that have to sit in. Yeah,
correct.
I agree with you on that.
But it's also very dependent in terms of how brave Tottenham are in these fixtures. So, if Cole Walker plays right back, is Mourinho going to be happy enough to let sort of Højbjerg come out from central midfield and go out and support, let's say, Reguilon, when Walker's going to fly out there and City are going to work double-ups? You need to be very brave to leave people high, like what Liverpool did yesterday, for example, which actually trapped City's fullbacks a little bit in terms of keeping them defensively, because they were scared about what Liverpool could do. And it becomes a game of chess, essentially. Against Chelsea, I would think now, from what Lampard's done against us in fixtures last season and in the League Cup earlier, I think Chelsea might play a back 3 against us. In which case, is he worried about Reece James going straight up against Reguilon, for example? And Azpilicueta will probably cover the space. So it really depends in terms of your personal reading of what's going to happen there, for example. Son has not been good in the last couple of games. They aren't... Burnley away, West Brom away are not really his type of fixtures. I would call them long grass fixtures. It's not to be disrespectful, it's not to moan about it after the event, because we won both games. But I suspect the grass was quite long when you go to these places, and it really slows up people like Son.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think the chance that he had early in the game yesterday, it probably played on his mind the whole game.
Yep.
I think he's that type of player who he regrets things once he's happened. Like Kane's a killer. I'll miss one, but 5 minutes later I'll be in for the second one. I don't think Sonny's like that. He becomes quite high and low confidence quite quickly. And I don't know what happened there, because we spoke about how ruthless he is in front of goal. How many fucking touches do you want, mate? But that was the only chance we had in the first half. By the end, we played well in minute 12, and probably the last 12 minutes is what we played well in. Højbjerg, I'll talk about him on Tottenham. was disastrous but great in the last 12 minutes. Him and Sissoko's just not working. The only Tottenham player, in my opinion, who played well yesterday was Eric Dyer. If you've got, what I would say is, if you've got Tottenham defensively, I'd get off people with Reguilon, etc. Yeah, do you know what? He might be great for the odd attack in return, etc. I don't see many clean sheets in Tottenham's next 8 games or so, honestly. On West Brom, quite good, considering obviously they lost Pereira and Ivanovic with COVID pre-kickoff. I don't know if that forced them into playing 5 at the back, but I suspect that was probably the intention. It was quite similar in terms of the game they had against Leicester on the opening day. The problem for them that day was once Leicester got in front, they didn't know how to react. This time, it obviously stayed 0-0 and they grew in confidence the longer the game went on. And they absolutely deserved to get something out of the game, West Brom. There's no way they deserve to lose that game. In terms of FPL assets, though, next game, mate.
Well, for people thinking of coming off Harry Kane, there is a really good option in Jamie Vardy. Let's take that missed penalty aside. Yeah, they've got Liverpool away this week, but he then walks into Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton, and then Everton. And Vardy has been banging form. Although I think this game in the end could have ended up a draw, really. I think both sides had decent chances. Schmeichel pulled off a great save from Neves. Yeah, I mean, what probably would have ended up a 1-1, I would have said. I think a lot in Clash of the Correspondents, all the guys predicted a draw, if I'm right.
Really difficult to call, and we'd said that, and it's a shame. It wasn't a great watch, but basically because both sides defended quite well. It's a shame that the game got decided in the way it got decided, but that's another podcast for another day. In fact, we did that podcast about 4 weeks ago, if I remember correctly, so go back and listen to that. I think on Vardy, if Kane blanks against City, there will be a mass movement to Vardy in game week 10, I think. Particularly more so at the moment because of concerns about which way to go with City offensively. I mean, what has City got? 10 goals in 7 or something? Doesn't feel right. But then the psychological in you thinks, well, they're due to be getting some very soon. And you look at them fixtures, and of course, they could get 4 or 5 against Burnley, Fulham and West Brom at home between 10 and 13. We know that. But I think Kane to Vardy will be a very popular move in game week 10. Like shout out Wesley Fofana again. It's not an FPL at the moment. Absolutely. My God, is that kid 19? What a talent he looks. He won't be at Leicester long if he keeps playing like that.
True.
Playing for fucking Barcelona or something, mate.
I mean, the likes of Soyuncu maybe won't even get back into the team on Fofana's current form.
He will.
I think so? Or is it Johnny Evans that will miss out?
Well, I think at the moment they're going to end up staying with this back 3/5.
Yeah.
I think when Pereira comes back in, he'll obviously be part of that team. I think what they did quite clever yesterday, I don't know if it was a gamble from the start. Luke Thomas did okay in the first half, but he was struggling a little bit. And I think they identified that moving just in that side was going to be really beneficial because obviously at some point Wolves were going to bring Traore on, right? I do not get this nonsense of what's going on with Traore and him not playing. Because what's happening at the moment is teams are ready for it. Okay, I know he's coming on at this stage of the game. I'm ready for it. Even Maddison, all Maddison did in that game yesterday was, he I can't stop you. And I don't even want to foul you. I just want to make sure that you go wide. You are not coming inside. Just go wide. Just beat me on the outside. And that's all they did. And they accepted that, do you know what? If he put a worldie of a cross in, which he did a few times during the restart period, then we'll deal with the consequences. And obviously having 3 centre-halves there increases the likelihood of being able to defend it properly. So I think Wolves need to work a way of getting him in that team. They've got a tough run of games coming up themselves now, but it might actually benefit them. For example, I'm sitting on Jimenez, and every week I want to sell him because he's just not involved in games at the moment.
He's just had a price drop as well.
Yeah. Listen, it's not particularly a week for early moves, right? Just because you want to get rid of a player.
No.
Unless you know they're injured, in which case Trent. I'll come on to that in a sec. So Jimenez is probably going to get the Southampton fixture for me again. I don't want him there at the moment. I just don't see goals in them.
No.
I think about it from the opposition perspective. I go, opponent's really good player. Neto, really good player. Don't worry me. Traore's the one that's going to make me shit myself.
Yep. You're definitely right.
Seriously. Every opponent must think, fucking glad he ain't playing. And I think at the moment, Wolves would be better off doing it the other way round and making people knackered after 60, 70 minutes. And then if people are sitting deep, then use the quality. Because at the moment, if they're going behind in games, it's just not working for them. No. It's not working, him coming on late. Where you want to use him, it's great to use him now on the counter-attack when you're already ahead in a game. But at the moment, unless they're playing like Palace, they're not getting ahead in games early enough to put people to bed, to open up that situation. They'd be better off Traore knackering people in the starter games, then using the additional quality of someone like Podence, who's a technician later in the game, personally. And I think if we get to that stage, by the way, it is Podence that will come out the team rather than Neto. That seems to be what Wolves people are generally saying to me at the moment, including Bradley Parker.
Yeah, he did say that last week. That's it. Let's talk about the next game. There's nothing else to say.
Kilman's fine.
Yeah, he's decent.
Leicester's going to be interesting one, I think, to talk about again before game week 10.
Yep, that's when their run starts after Liverpool away. Another Liverpool away fixture against Man City, and I would call this in many ways the game of two halves. You think they both? So let's have a go in the first half. Ended up 1-1, and then in the second half petered out into thinking we'll probably take a 1-1. It's not a bad result for either team, and ended up a little bit of shadow boxing towards the end, and not the 100 mile an hour that it was in the first half.
I have to say, I can understand, but just before I come into the game, I have to make this point. There was a lot of talk after the game yesterday about 5 substitutes from Klopp and Guardiola. And it was clear, actually, that that's what they were talking about at the end of the game. And they both said as much in their interviews afterwards. Solskjaer also had a go at some of the scheduling. And to be fair, Klopp also mentioned about Tottenham playing 12 o'clock on a Sunday after playing in Bulgaria on a Thursday. Unfortunately, in my opinion, and I realise it's heightened this year because of COVID, etc., doing well and being in European competition is going to give you these problems. That's what your bigger squad is for. Use your squad. Klopp and Guardiola to come out after the game and start screaming about we need 5 subs when during the game yesterday there was a total of 3 substitutions made. What's the point?
Yeah, that doesn't make logical sense at all.
Would they have made more substitutes yesterday? Why didn't they? So I get it because of Trent's injury, etc., and that as well. And that's why they really want it, is to stop people getting calf injuries, etc. But would 5 substitutes have meant that Klopp took Trent off, for example? No. He took him off early in Italy to save him some legs. It didn't help, did it? Muscle injuries can occur. I realise they're happening more and more at the moment. On the game, first half, wow, that first half. Liverpool were so good in the first 15, 20 minutes. I think the system caught City out. I think probably once City had seen the team, they knew what was going to happen, but it was still a shock because no one does that against them. To say, do you know what? We're basically going to play 4-2-4, and we're gonna go toe to toe with you. And it looked like Liverpool were going to overpower City, and then ironically, and this is why I don't think the system will last for Liverpool. The goal comes about purely because of Liverpool's system. I genuinely think if they've got 3 in there, it doesn't happen. Now, admittedly, if they'd have played 3 in midfield, they might not have been in front in the game, so it counters itself. But it's purely happened because Mane then went and pressed one of the centre-backs. Wijnaldum gets pulled out of position, and then Henderson is in a position where he'd normally have someone in there with him.
Yep.
If Wijnaldum hadn't gone out, he'd normally still have someone else with him. And then I don't think Jesus particularly meant the first touch, but his reaction was incredible. Really.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask you. I mean, the way he reacted so quickly that you'd almost think he must have meant it, because you can't react that quickly to a mistake. But I also don't think he meant to turn the way he did. But the finish was great, and it looked like
I think he is a very good instinctive player. He's one of them who, if he's got too much time on things, seems to overthink it as well. I think instinctively he's a very good forward. City are definitely better having an out-and-out forward. I don't know what... I mean, we've got Johnny Pringle on Clash of Correspondence next Thursday on the 19th, or whatever that is, before this big fixture swing. We'll preview the game at Tottenham with him. I'm fascinated to get his thoughts on the fact that Mahrez and Foden weren't used in that game yesterday in any way. And that's what I'm saying. You're telling me like you've got bad players on the bench, etc. Actually, was Mahrez sub yesterday?
I don't know.
I know obviously Foden was. He was obviously nearly coming off.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know what he thought of Ferran Torres' performance on the right. He did okay. I feel like City are really missing Leroy Sané. And I feel like that's going to be a repetitive thing. That somebody when the game's a bit tighter to literally have explosion. I know Sterling is quick. Sané was ridiculous. Like, forget about it if he gets away from you.
And he was a very good finisher as well. Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
He didn't seem 100% fit, wincing a little bit here and there, and yet he still had a couple of great efforts from long range. The penalty, he just scuffed it really badly. He just didn't catch it right. He's not going to do that again in a hurry. Had he scored that penalty, I think everybody's like, right, we need to get straight back on the Kevin De Bruyne train.
Yeah, you're so
because
right.
He's at 15.9%, super low ownership. I said it to Andrew Ferguson. There's a certain warm, fuzzy feeling inside when you have Kevin De Bruyne in your team, because you know that he can just tear it up, and he was the one I felt was most likely to create things and get returns yesterday. I feel good having in my team after that for that fixture swing in game week 10 and then moving forward from there.
So De Bruyne, those who play the Sky game know, like, considering the position he plays on the pitch, sometimes he gets through a lot of passes in a game. So it kind of stood out to me yesterday that he only had 22 accurate passes during the game. Feels like playing for Man City a really low number. And I thought one of the things Liverpool did really well, particularly in the first half, and actually did it throughout the game, was stopping passing lines. That was the idea. It was let Laporte and Diaz have the ball, but we're not going to allow it get punched into Rodri, or even worse, into De Bruyne beyond that. And so he didn't have a major impact on the game. So it got me thinking, what was different from when City obviously beat Liverpool 4-0 and could have been more during the restart period? Let me ask you, Suj, you had 22 accurate passes at the weekend. How many accurate passes do you think De Bruyne had when they beat Liverpool 4-0?
Well, to get tier 2 passing in Sky is 70. So I'm going to just say 70. But I feel like you're about to say like 25 or something ridiculously low again.
Right, to be honest, when you say 70, if you'd have just mispronounced it a little bit, mate, because the correct answer is 17. Kevin De Bruyne had 17 accurate passes in the 4-0 win against Liverpool during the restart, 22 at the weekend. I think City have to ask themselves, when a game's not going quite the way they want, and obviously in the Liverpool game, they obviously got ahead, and he stayed really high. I mean, it's worth saying, in the 4-0 game, out of those 17 passes, 5 of them were key passes, basically creating big chances. So he was obviously heavily involved. I would just feel personally that, okay, you're not having success in getting the ball through passing lines, change it and put him deeper, because he's the best fucking passer in the league, basically. And then you'll start breaking lines in better ways. To be honest, if it meant that he had to go and get the ball off the centre halves, let him go and get the ball off the centre halves. And I think City would have had more success in the game. Then you can push the fullbacks higher. It then pushes Mane and Jota deeper. There's a lot of things tactically that I think City could have changed during the game yesterday that they didn't.
I'm really hoping they pull the international break injury on De Bruyne. Can just give him a bit of a rest over 2 weeks to get really up to 100% fitness and pull him from the Belgium squad. You know the top clubs like to find these tight muscles here and there. So I think he could do with just a little bit more work on fitness.
I think at this moment, for those 3 home fixtures, Burnley, Fulham, West Brom, right now, Sterling feels like the better option to me. I don't know if I can make that move, because the guys who listen regularly will know how much of a fan of KDB I am in terms of wanting him in my team. At the moment, I don't have him. It might be that Sterling right now is the better choice, interestingly. I don't have the right answer. It's possibly a coin toss. You're going to have to deal with rotation during those fixtures as well, which is going to make captaincy a little bit scary. But I think you're probably going to have to go with your guy and back it in most cases. I think that when we get to game week 10, the Burnley fixture, which is the first game, a lot of people will look at Salah away to Brighton and Vardy against Fulham and think, do you know what? There's good alternatives for me not to risk the captaincy on City. Although City always batter Burnley. That's the thing. You go, Burnley stingy. City always batter Burnley.
Yeah. And let's talk about the final game before we wrap up with maybe one or two Twitter questions, James. Talking about words that have come out of your mouth to bash you with, and that's not intentional in any way. Arsenal are becoming the best defensive side in the league. Oh dear.
As my Tottenham fellows would say, you took one for the team there, didn't you, James? Completely fucking jinxed them. I didn't talk about Trent replacements. I just want to say that right now, personally, I'm leaning towards buying Nico Williams.
Yeah, 3.9 million.
It's 3.9 million. I know, right? And for me, because I've got Ayling, Taylor, and Walker Peters, it's not a concern for me whether he plays or not.
No.
It would be the upside of if he does play. Wow.
Yeah, 3.9 million.
Whatever you think of them defensively, Liverpool fullback at 3.9 million. And for me, to add on to the Pulisic issue that I've obviously got, if I go to Trent to Nico Williams, it allows me to go from Pulisic to De Bruyne or Sterling.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm likely to make that move and I would play Nico Williams, and if he doesn't play, then that's what the bench is for. I think for those who've got your Mitchells, Saiss, etc., that's going to be more difficult. One solution might be to move one of those type of guys to a Nico Williams, by the way.
I was going to say, I've got Tyreek Mitchell. I would happily move Mitchell to Nico Williams. The problem is, though, I couldn't bench Nico Williams. Like, if he's in my squad, I have to play him. So then,
play him.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see.
And if he doesn't play, that's what your bench is for. You'd have to ask yourself, if Nico Williams is not in the Liverpool lineup, how often is he going to get brought on as a substitute? Not often, right?
No.
He's only been used as a substitute, basically. All right, we'll give Trent a rest at the end of a game. That would.
And that was
issue.
in
he'll either
lockdown
play or he
period
won't
as well,
play.
When they'd already won the league.
He'll either play or he won't play. Now, I get it completely. There's a lot of guys saying Milner can play there. Joe Gomez will cover at right back. I get that. You might absolutely be right. But for me and my circumstance, that's basically got a full squad. I only need the cover till potential wild card ahead of game week 16. Nico Williams makes sense. As a -4, I'm going to replace 2 injured players with Nico Williams and De Bruyne or Sterling. It seems straightforward. It's so straightforward to me in my mind at the moment that I might pull the trigger on it early before Trent's value goes down tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, Arsenal, yeah. Arsenal, in my opinion, to clarify it and to take another one for the team, I think Arsenal will keep so many clean sheets in the coming game weeks.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions, because
they are better defensively.
When I watched it, I was so confused. John McGinn's disallowed goal. How many Arsenal players were in the penalty area?
8 or 9, I guess.
11.
Oh, really? All of them?
All of them. The Saka's own goal. How many Arsenal players were in the penalty area? 10. And Ollie Watkins' first goal, how many Arsenal players were in the penalty area?
I think that was all
9.
9, okay.
We're talking.
I've done well there on the quiz.
I mean, but when I looked at it, I was like, there are so many red shirts. There are only a couple of Villa shirts. How have they scored? So it's not an issue of not having men back or whatever. You almost did they have too many bodies in the box to not be able to defend it? I have no idea what has happened here.
I mean, the disallowed goal, which is the correct decision technically.
I agree with you
But it's frustrating because there's no fucking way he's saving it, right? That's the first thing. And it's doubly frustrating because it was 44 seconds into the game that McGinn scored, and the decision to confirm, to rule the goal out, was 4 minutes 50 seconds. It took them over 4 minutes to make the decision.
Yeah.
And then they added 3 minutes on at half time.
See, Barkley jumped up.
Which is annoying, because it should have been about 6-7 minutes getting added on in the first half. Not that I complained, because Arsenal were losing, obviously.
Nah. But when Barkley jumped up, the ball was in the back of the net before Barkley's feet touched the ground again. I mean, he hit it so hard.
Technically, it's the right decision.
I agree with you. He was in the line of sight, sadly. But
you can't. I think on that kind of things, I don't think you can make a judgment technically to go and make a judgmental decision that he won't get there. There's nothing to say that he isn't Superman and couldn't have saved it. We all know he couldn't, but I don't think you can make that decision. So technically, offside's the right decision. What's interesting here with Arsenal, and we spoke about obviously how well they pressed at Manchester United. The difference is Villa at the moment are a better team on the ball than Manchester United. That was one problem. Also, this game, I spoke last week about Arsenal having combinations now to basically play with Partey in terms of El Neni's pressing, Ceballos is breaking through lines, or Xhaka's ball retention. For me, it was a Xhaka game, actually, in terms of the ball being passed directly through lines. Because Villa have an issue when the ball goes past them. Even in midfield areas. Douglas Luiz, John McGinn in midfield, genuinely brilliant. It's also a lot easier when there's no one in those areas floating into positions to give you positional choices that are difficult to make. Aubameyang, there's a stat that's gone around that a lot of you may have seen. Aubameyang, if he continues at his current rate, his expected goals for the whole season will be around about 2.25. For the whole season,
I get it.
Goals.
Incredible.
Now, at some point, listen, I'm not the best analysis in the world. I'm sitting it every week and going, they've got major creativity issues. So they need to fix that because they've got a world-class player who's not getting involved in games at the moment. You have to fix that. Whatever you do to fix that and make a goal-scoring machine a threat in games, which he's not at the moment.
What are your thoughts on Villa in terms of piling into the assets? I mean, you've got Grealish already. Do you think you'll be doubling up or tripling up?
Oh, I got Martinez as well, didn't I?
So that's true.
What
You
I
are
meant
doubled
in
up
terms
now.
of the -4 wasn't brilliant for me in the first instance, and I wasn't even expecting what I got out of them, right? But I'm in a better position landing on it now, right? Jack Grealish is the most informed player in this league.
Yep.
More than Kane, more than Son, more than anybody. The guy is flying. And what I love about him at the moment is a little bit different. And I think people who owned Grealish last winter might be thinking, he's frustrated me before, like, say, Zaha has. What's massively changed in his game this season is his directness. So,
do you feel like the word I like that comes to mind is a bit of swagger? Like, he's always been a confident
player. He's always
player,
had the swagger.
But right now, it's just at another level. He's got no fear of taking anyone on, just making stuff happen.
He's gone from a player who obviously you can't get the ball off, and he used to be frustrating. What you always used to feel, I think, playing against Grealish was you could put him into alleys and he wouldn't go anywhere. Now he realises the opportunity on counter-attacks and runs at people. That on the third goal, I was nearly getting I thought I was going to get Martinez assist, mate. Grealish goal on the third goal, because I thought he's going to come inside and hit.
The way
he's
that was it
Bellerin away from Bellerin, mate.
Bounced
Bellerin's
off him.
Not slow, and he just bounces Bellerin away.
It was one of the best shoulder charges I think I've seen. Bellerin ended up 2 meters away from him on his arse, man. Incredible shoulder charges he's running with the ball. Great strength.
It genuinely, absolutely brilliant, Jack Grealish. Every club will right now be regretting not paying whatever Villa might have wanted in the summer, because it's going to cost a lot more next summer, right? Genuinely brilliant. If we can't find a place for him in that England team, I don't care if you're saying he can't play in midfield. Pick him over Rashford, pick him over Sterling, get him in the team. He's a superstar and he's going to get better. Flying. Absolutely flying. His FPL price, he almost can't be ignored at the moment.
7.4
with the
is
fixtures
fantastic.
are now coming. I think you'll find, but by the time we get round to sort of game week 11 or so, I wouldn't be surprised if he's up to sort of 7.7, 7.8, genuinely. He's the best one to get hold of because he has the biggest capability to go really big. He could have comfortably got 15 odd points yesterday. He's had the shot cleared off the line again, as he had a shot cleared off the line against Leeds. Suddenly, if those two go in, you're potentially looking at very close to the highest scoring player in FPL after 8 game weeks. They played a game less, by the way, and had some difficult fixtures, and about to run into a good run. So, Watkins, Barkley, Konsa, Target, Martinez, these are all decent possibilities. And I just think across the board, people are going to be targeting Villa this week. It's not going to work for me to add Watkins, but it's the one that I want to add. His value's great, right?
Yeah,
you can't argue. He's going to score. He's going to score some weeks. He's going to not. I love the fact that the first goal he got was so similar to the header he got against Liverpool as well. I'm going to be in the right position And how often do you see balls fly across like that? And he was flat-footed, he was on his feet, he didn't get there. He senses the opportunity and he goes. Same on the final goal. He makes the right run. The timing of the run's good. So when you've got the creativity of people like Grealish and Barkley behind, and it's worth saying Trezeguet played really well as well also, he's going to get plenty of chances, right?
He is indeed.
I think he's the standout at that value when you've got sort of Bamford, Adams. If someone's trying to make that choice right now, Bamford, Adams, Watkins, obviously all scored at the weekend. Watkins now, I think. It's going to frustrate you in a few fixtures, but it's the possibility of what might be, I think, is worth going that way. I wouldn't tell anybody right now you can't have a Villa treble up, particularly those who are looking to wildcard in game week 16, because that's when the run ends as well. Game week 15 is the last one, and then the run ends.
But before you do jump off any assets and start jumping on Villa assets this week, don't, is the advice here, I would say, James, because we are in an international break now. We do have players flying all over the world for fixtures. I think I was hearing that Jimenez, who's a Mexican, is going to Australia because that's where their fixtures are, and so on and so on. Yeah, they've got 3 fixtures in Australia. Mental.
Fuck, I might have to sell Jimenez. -8 incoming. Indeed. Is he really going to Australia? That's scandalous. Generally.
Don't make any moves.
Well, no, I think there's certain ones. To be honest, like Ollie Watkins is the sort of one I think it's okay to go early for.
If they're not playing international football, I understand. To
be honest, if you've got Wilson right now, who looks like he's going to be out for a few weeks, more difficult fixture against Chelsea. Ollie Watkins is not going to be on international duty.
Yeah.
Brighton at home. Do you know what? If COVID gets you, right? Yeah. To be honest, Pereira and Ivanovic, we found out when West Brom picked the team yesterday.
Yeah.
So shit can happen, right? So I think that's the sort of one. Callum Wilson to Ollie Watkins is one I'd go. If you want to go early, go early. But generally speaking, I probably wouldn't go early on Grealish.
No.
Which is going to annoy people because he is going to fly up in price and quickly.
There we go, James. We've been through all of the games. With it being international break, I know so many people are going to want to know our thoughts on who to pick. Next week, we'll be back at you with a full show. Obviously, we'll have no games to review, so we will be picking up questions from Twitter and what have you, where we can run down the main talking points.
We will do a Q&A pod next week. We've also got an important pod that we're going to do next Monday as well, Suj. It's a subject we've been wanting to cover for quite a long time, so we're going to do a bit of a Planet FPL special next week on homophobia in football.
So for the rest of this week, guys, we do have tomorrow the People's Poll. James will be putting out a tweet on Monday evening if you get a chance to listen to this before then to vote on the topics. On Wednesday, Sky FF was a decent week for me. Nearly hit the 100 club, James. 97 I ended on. Yeah, it's all right. For Sky Fantasy Football. So if you're a Sky Fantasy Football player, join us on Wednesday.
Should we just do the Q&A again tomorrow?
Instead of the People's Poll?
Yeah. I don't know what topics I'm putting in.
Okay, Q&A done for tomorrow. We'll be answering your Twitter questions in the People's Poll. Wednesday, Sky FF. Thursday, we have Clash of the Correspondents. Who do you have on this week, James?
So 2 big Clash of the Correspondents coming up before Game Week 9. So Andy Martin, Adam Pritchard, Leeds versus Arsenal Thursday. Ricky Saunders, Johnny Pringle, Tottenham v Man City next Thursday. So both of them on the next 2 Thursdays before Game Week 9. Tottenham City feels particularly important because that's the big fixture swing that everyone's talking about. Is Tottenham obviously bad, City about to go green. And Leeds Arsenal will be fascinating because they've obviously the pair of them have got such high expectations in their own way. And they've both just come off unforgivable results to a certain extent, right?
They have indeed. On Friday, there'll be an Ask James live stream. It might be a good one to get on this week and ask James about non-football stuff, as there isn't any matches. So get on and have a laugh.
Non-football stuff? What's your favourite ice cream and stuff like that?
How many bites can you eat a triple chocolate muffin in? Would be a good question for James this week.
To be honest with you, if Wolves had equalised, I'd have been picking some crumbs up the floor and I'd have been eating them as well, mate.
And there we go. If you need more content from us, you can head over to patreon.com/planetfpl, where we do release additional content for patrons every weekday. And sometimes you do get a cheeky little additional live stream or that kind of thing as well. We're here to provide you as much entertainment as we can during lockdown. In the meantime, it just leaves me to say thank you for all of your support. I hope your arrows were green this week. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.